So we're here with Randy Mason, personal injury and workers' compensation attorney, right?
Correct.
Randy, I have a few questions for you so that people know you.
Sure.
The first thing is, I know you get a lot of Latino clients.
Correct.
How do the Latino community trust you to with their personal injury cases? How do you get to become popular among the Latinos?
Well, a lot of it's word of mouth, I think. I get a lot of referrals from prior clients. My entire staff is bilingual, Spanish and English speaking. So I've always had a good working relationship with the Latino community. The doctors we work with are bilingual as well.
How long have you been working on personal injury?
Well, I think it's been 35 years.
35
You know,
years?
it doesn't look possible, I know that.
Yeah, it's a long time.
Yeah.
So you probably know a lot of other attorneys who are in the same field too here in San Diego.
Yes, yeah. Quite a
Do
few.
you get a lot of clients that are referred by other attorneys or who other attorneys couldn't help with their cases?
Yeah, quite a few. Probably 10 to 15% come from other attorneys, I would estimate.
What's a typical personal injury case? What does it entail to have a personal injury case?
Well, there's all different types. The majority are motor vehicle accidents. A lot of rear end accidents. Somebody runs a red light or a stop sign into your
Like a
client's
car
vehicle.
accident?
A lot of car accidents, yeah. But I've done other, product liabilities and some slip and falls, just general negligence causing injuries.
What is that? What's negligent causing injury?
Well, when somebody or some individual or a business has a duty of due care to prevent harm to other people, that's when they fail to meet their burden, their duty of due care.
For example, in a restaurant, they didn't do something they were supposed to do and somebody got injured because of that?
Yeah, it could happen in a restaurant. I recently had a case where my client was injured at her fitness facility when the coach at the fitness facility had put a free weight between her feet as she was doing leg lifts, which is not good practice because the free weight fell from between her feet, if I found, and hit her on the face, and she had to have 3 plastic surgeries to remedy the situation.
Was that a recent case that you had to?
Yeah, in fact, we just settled the case last week.
Hmm?
Yeah.
Awesome. Congratulations.
And I think you saw the client that came in, that was her.
Oh, that was the client that was
Yeah.
here before? Good.
She had a good recovery, yeah.
So Randy, what's the process for making a claim? If I get injured and I have, or a family of mine has an accident at work, and it's a possible, they have a possible case, what do they do? What's the process of taking action?
Well, typically, the first step is for the injured worker to inform the supervisor that they were injured on the job. Sometimes it's obvious, you fall off a ladder, you're injured. Sometimes it's a cumulative trauma that occurs over the course of time and doing repetitive activities. But what the employee should do is notify the boss that, hey, I've injured myself, I need to get treatment under workers' compensation.
So they should notify the boss right away, as soon
Yes.
as they can?
Yes.
What happens if they get injured and there's a period of time in which they don't notify their boss?
Well, oftentimes that happens because employees are afraid they're going to get fired if they report a job injury. And it's illegal for the employer to fire you of a job injury, but it doesn't stop employers from doing that. It happens
So
too
you
often.
heard that you cannot get fired just because you report an accident. It's illegal, right?
It's illegal, but some employers do illegal things.
So some employers will still fire people.
Correct.
Who can they take action? Can the employee take action against the employer?
Yes, yeah, it is illegal. You can have a civil action for wrongful termination as well as a workers' comp portion of your claim for what's called discrimination against injured employee by the employer, which is found in Labor Code Section 132A.
So this could be a discrimination case also as well.
Correct.
If they get fired because they filed a claim for personal injury
Well, for workers' comp
or
benefits.
for workers' comp.
Workers'
Yeah,
comp
yeah.
benefits, right. Yeah, it's prohibited by the Labor Code to discriminate.
So one question that comes to mind of people right away, and I hear this from a lot of people, is how much is my case worth? How much money am I entitled to make because of the accident? How do you know that? Can you tell them?
Well, in workers' compensation, the primary benefit, of course, is your medical care. It's all the responsibility of the employer and or the employer's workers' compensation carrier. That's usually the most expensive part of the claim. As far as the individual's monetary recovery, depends upon the level of disability after they've gotten all the appropriate medical treatment to, what they say, cure or relieve the effects of the industrial injury. At that point in time, the doctor will say you've reached maximum medical improvement, or you're permanent and stationary, and doctor's report will say what your percentage of impairment is. And then we rate out the percentage of impairment. We get to a level of permanent disability, a percentage. Each percentage is worth a different dollar amount. It increases as the percentage goes up. The injured worker has the right to leave medical open for the rest of their life if they so desire, and they'll get paid the permanent disability benefit every 2 weeks until they paid out what the level is worth. If you're 20% disabled, that's worth approximately $20,000. If you keep the medical open, that will come to you bi-weekly, and you'll see the doctor, and workers' comp will continue to pay for it. More often, injured workers prefer to get a lump sum settlement where, in addition to the permanent disability money, you'll get a monetary amount for your future medical care. Because the doctor's report will say what medical care is reasonably anticipated for these injuries, and you can put a value on that, and it's obviously negotiable. We start high, they start low, and more often than not, somewhere in between, the case is resolved.
So there is a negotiating process that you
Yes.
take care of when you're doing those cases.
Correct.
And then I got lost a little bit, but I understand that there's percentages that you have to take into that take place here, depending on how much medical care you need and what your disability will be for your future.
Well, those are kind of two different concepts. The permanent disability, the percentage is based on the doctor's reporting of your permanent disability, what your work restrictions are, and what they call your whole person impairment. And then ultimately you end up with a percentage of permanent disability based on the doctor's reporting. And as I say, each percentage is worth more money.
I see.
The higher it goes. If you get up to 70%, in addition to your permanent disability payments, you're entitled to a payment for life pension, which the weekly rate depends on the rate of earnings at the time of injury, but that would pay you for the rest of your life as a certain
And they have to, I mean, people have to get medical care because they got injured, but also is it needed for the case that they go to a doctor?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's injuries. It's workers' compensation is for being injured. So if you're injured, you see a doctor.
So they have to go see a doctor. It's not like they can do a whole case without getting any treatment. Part of the case is what the doctor says about the injury.
Right. The insurance company has no risk if there's no medical reporting. I mean, there's no risk of exposure because you never saw a doctor. I mean,
How soon do they have to see a doctor after the accident?
well, they should see a doctor as soon as possible. I mean, obviously, if you're injured, you're going to see a doctor. If you don't see a doctor, puts up a red flag that you're just trying to make up a workers' comp claim to get some
Maybe
money.
you're trying to play the system.
Yeah, which we don't do that.
Of course.
Yeah.
So one last thing that it's also very popular in the workers' compensation and personal injury legal part of the law. It's a contingency fee. What's a contingency fee? Or like they say in Spanish, no pagas nada si no ganamos el caso. So, ¿qué quiere decir eso?
Okay, so basically, I don't receive any hourly fee from the client. I don't receive any costs from the client. The fees on a workers' comp case is typically 15% of the amount recovered by way of settlement or trial from with the workers' comp judge. So the workers' comp settlement has to be approved by a workers' comp judge. And if we're unsuccessful, we go to trial and we don't win, the injured worker doesn't owe me anything. That's only happened like once or twice. But
Really? So
It's
that's
pretty
not very
rare.
common. Usually the cases are won, but if
Yes.
it's not, if you don't win the case, basically you're doing all this work. helping the injured worker, but you don't get paid for it.
Right, there's no
And-
financial risk to the injured worker retaining me as their attorney.
And there is no
without the attorney
upfront
fees.
cost that they have to come and
Correct.
pay you for a consultation
Right,
or anything like that.
right, no money out of pocket for attorney fees.
Great.
And then oftentimes, on a workers' comp case, if you're on the job and you get injured, then you're entitled to workers' comp benefits. Sometimes those injuries on the job are caused by a third party, such as a delivery driver working, making a delivery, and somebody runs a red light and T-bones them. So you also, in addition to the workers' comp case against your employer, you have a third party case against the party that caused the accident by running the red light. And I do both sides of those cases. I do both the workers' comp and the personal injury and the goal is to maximize the recovery for the injured party. So I've been doing both sides of both
I
the
see,
comp and
excellent.
personal injury.
Well, we were here with Randy Mason, the law officer Randy Mason, and Randy is someone who que trabaja con los latinos aquí en San Diego y que su personal habla español. Hemos trabajado con Randy por un buen tiempo, ayudándolo a perfeccionar su oficina para que le pueda servir mejor a la comunidad latina. Y déjanos saber si tienen cualquier pregunta sobre workers' compensation, compensación al trabajador en español o accidentes personales que están involucrados en el ámbito de trabajo. Y Randy estará más que contento de contestarles. Okay. Gracias, Randy.
Gracias.
Okay.